Oscar and I try to make a kind of synthesis, and that allows us to move on to the practical next step. And we identified 5 subjects we would like to raise, or proposals we would like to make. I'm going to read them out, and then if you feel that something is forgotten, then we could add. And then we can maybe discuss them one by one. First, we need a kind of foundational text, a statement, a constitution of any kind, short, that describes what we are, what we stand for, what we want to aim for. Our practical proposition would be that Oscar and I would try to draft that in the next few weeks and email it, and then you can tear it down and in the fullness of time, but preferably before June. When we meet in Tilburg, we come out with a text that by then will not be 2 pages anymore, but either half a page, either 25, as we all are all lawyers. Second is a proposition to have from now on an annual conference. Next one would then be in Tilburg. If you want this idea of an annual conference, it's an invitation to start who's going to do 2013. And the setup in our view could be one day a meeting like this in which we speak about league business, and one day an academic conference in which we speak about academic aspects of the globalization of law. And that in turn each school would organize a conference over the next years. Third, website. We already spoke about that. Fourth, we need some working committees to delve deeper into agenda setting. And at this time we see 2, but I'm inclined to act maybe third, potential working groups. At some points, hearing the discussion, I had 9. That's a little bit too much, I think. So we started a group. To put it very roughly, one working committee could be an academic one, which tries to work out the agenda in terms of what globalization means for education and research. For instance, start by inventorizing what globalization is, the different aspects, what the different impacts are on the content of education and on the content of research, not so much on the practical setup. And of course, we need to discuss then maybe the first steps. The second working group I would call practical, and I have assembled basically 4 practical issues we might want to develop in short order. Summer school is 1, moot court is 2, joint program, joint LLM is 3, and co-teaching, co-textbooks is 4. Of course, the first committee and the second committee will to some extent feed in one another. A third potential one, but maybe we shouldn't start with everything at the same time, is potentially a committee on the impact of globalization on legal practice and relations to bars and so on and so forth. That's subject 4, so working committees. Subject 5 is members. We invited 18, I think, universities in total. Or at this point, actually, we have 18, let's say, universities that showed their interest, 13 which are present, and 5 which are not present but said that they would come to Tilburg. 3 are on the flag. That's IE Madrid, that's McGill from Montreal, and that is Sciences Po from Paris.
They're committed, they just couldn't come to this meeting.
They committed to come to the next one, and 2 more, that's Sydney Law and Hong Kong University. Leaving us with some big gaps on the map. One is called the People's Republic of China. One is, I think, the Arab Middle East. And one is a tiny country called England. We had been talking to UCL, but in the end they didn't show up. So we might think about either pursuing UCL, stalking them, either make a change there. That is what but of course this is all open now for discussion. So the first question is there another subject we've forgotten about?
Benchmarking?
Yes, but that would be one of the working committees in the future. We'll try to identify now, let's say, subjects to start with, but benchmarking could of course be one. Other? Shall we take them one by one? Do you agree on the idea that Oscar and me would try to make a statement and then email it around, or is there somebody who says, no, I want to do it? Oh, it wants to join us. Sorry?
Oh,
research committee.
Committees, but there can be a committee for research.
Okay.
It's a good idea.
Take that back. Okay. But you agree that to take them one by one, I added that Oscar and me will try to do something and send it to you, and then. Okay. Second, annual conference and the setup of that. Is that something which appeals? And that setup of one day, let's say, executive meeting and one day academic. And academic, then I would say, be inclined, is open to everybody. I mean, if you organize it in, for instance, New York University, you want, of course, to invite Americans to come in more mass than, and so on and so forth. So this academic side, I would see, would not make exclusive to members or to faculty of members, but open up to the world, because it's also a way to brand us, of course.
I don't know if it is the moment to say this, but just as an organization idea, would be that perhaps the annual conference and the summer course could overlap. So it will be a possibility that some of us will be there for teaching in the summer course. We will have a group of students that are already involved on the project, and we have the conference. So this would, make it easier, and I think we could gain in terms of putting everything together. So this is one direction.
How long would be this summer course?
If the summer course is 3 or 4 weeks, the conference could be in the middle or in the end or in the beginning. So we will create a community in some sense. And we will have, even those who are not directly teaching in the summer course, we will have the possibility of engaging with the students and we don't have to organize 2 things in the schedule, in the year schedule. So this is just a suggestion. Yeah, you have a natural audience for this. The students will.
Of course, it confines us to the summer, wherever that may be and whenever that may be. But it's a very practical idea. It's a very practical idea. Does it carry consent or? Yeah. Okay. Website, we already talked about it, but it's basically a question of commitment and who's going to set it up. But is that something you feel is important to commit to? I see some people nodding. Okay, then the difficult one, the working committee. So we had the idea to make one academic, which would be both education and research. So basically setting out the question or answering the question, what is globalization, and progressively see what it does in education, in research, and the setting what Dean from Rio said, certain research agenda or an agenda on topics that's of course now very broadly and very vaguely defined. Of course we could make a split between education and research, but if we depart from the agenda idea, and I saw in the meeting that many people felt like that, then maybe that's not the most practical division, education and research. But we have to build an agenda of globalization, and then it will, of course, both reflect on research and on education. Or did you mean something differently?
I also have a practical regarding the agenda. Yeah, I fully agree with the idea of an agenda that you discussed, and I fully agree with that. But to establish an agenda is not to establish a closed agenda. I think is to establish an agenda for the next 4 years, or for the near future. And obviously other issues would come, and we will increase the agenda. But another question regarding the agenda is that when we define this agenda, perhaps all the areas of this enterprise, so research, common disciplines, the summer course, if we could keep inside of the thematic agenda, perhaps this will strengthen each other. We will perhaps in the end have materials in environmental law. We will have a joint courses in environmental law. We will have a summer course on the issue of environmental law. So this will, perhaps we could give a better contribution to everyone, if we decide to take, seriously the agenda that we decide, and this would cross in every activity of the group. Just gain of scale.
Just in general, how would the foundational text relate to the agenda? Is the agenda part of the foundational text, or?
Well, as a constitutional lawyer would say no. That's procedural. I think yes.
There's an overlap. Maybe.
Of course, the interpretation of the constitutional text will change as the agenda changes. That's the constitutional answer. I think that's the right answer.
Should have substantive, give signs of our substantive decisions. I would agree that the agenda should, in some sense, express.
Well, I think what we need to do, of course, Oscar, is when we write the draft of the constitutional text, we will, to some extent, make an agenda for the committee, what they're going to think about, inevitably. And that's why it's important, of course, that you all then reflect on it profoundly before we accept it.
And we can decide on the agenda in the next meeting in Tilburg, and then fill the blanks on the Constitution.
The practical working group, so I identified, let's say, the quick potential hits, maybe. Summer school, moot court, well, it's not so light, of course. Think about joint LLM, how to do that maybe, develop that. Maybe brand programs that exist with the name of the, what Amin was telling in the break. Maybe we could also think about develop a law school global league brand and say certain programs, when they answer this and this condition, then we brand them. It doesn't mean anything in legal terms, but it might develop a brand for us, and it might be worthy for programs to get our brand. Because as I replied, I think this league wants to be two things. It wants to be a platform for discussion and exchange of information and to bring people together. But it also, to some extent, can be a megaphone or a branding machine, or what we'll call it. And that might be a subject. And these are maybe I'm co-teaching, co-text, maybe the 4 subjects to start with in that practical committee. And my idea would be that both committees would start shortly, and that a first, let's say, outcome already would pour out of that in the executive meeting in Tilburg. And then, of course, we could give it a new push when we're all together. So if that's an idea to start with the 2 committees, then the great question is going to be who are going to man and woman the committees. And the idea could be, of course, that ideally there would be a member from each member. Maybe that's a little bit too much. But at least the chairman or the chairwoman should be somebody who is present here today. If not, we have too much loss of information, but it can be staffed, I would say, with faculty members you want to propose. But the chairman, we feel should be present today. And that brings us to maybe the most difficult point. Who wants to be chairman of the academic committee and who wants to be chairman of the practical committee?
Some volunteers?
And now we give you 2 minutes of reflection.
So the practical committee is going to be a single committee, or is it going to be divided into 4 subcommittees?
Yeah, I think it's too many issues for one.
I would suggest
Could be, yeah.
Different chairs for
They're
some
complex issues. What kind of division do you suggest?
So I think that the summer school deserves its own subcommittee, moot court probably, LLM or other sorts of continuing legal education and co-teaching. That is actually, to say faculty deliberation would be another sort of a subcommittee.
So you would make actually 4 smaller practical, but then I would suggest that we don't have 18 members per.
4 members, and I guess that we can find chairpersons for it. Right here.
Maybe that's a good suggestion, maybe for that.
So,
Which now all of a sudden makes
let's restart the selling.
we now have 5 5 chairpersons necessary. The academic one, which is of course a big challenge, and that would be a bigger committee. Then summer school, moot courts, joint degrees, and co-teaching.
So I'll volunteer for the co-teaching.
Okay, great. Now you broke the ice. Now all 3.
It might be helpful just to give a sense of what you guys think between now and June these committees will try to achieve, because that might, I mean, it's hard hard to say, but I just wonder if we want to, because that probably would make people less or more willing to.
Well, for instance, for summer school, it would be good that by then there would be a proposition on how we could do that, set up in terms of when, annually or not, how long, what is practical. Basically, a committee like that would have inventorize what schools are wanting to do, and then try to find common ground, and at least have a certain idea of what it could be by June. And then, of course, we need to discuss and work it out. And then, of course, maybe also indicate a first start. Because for all great ideas, it's important that you start.
To have a first step.
And circulate a small document.
Yeah.
And I got a
We
question.
don't need 300-page reports, of course.
I received a question from neighbors, and just to qualify, are we talking about committees that will start right now, or are we talking about committees that are going to email and make a document between now and June?
We're talking about committees that from tomorrow on can start and make a document by June.
Yeah, perhaps after this, in this school of summer, you can chat.
Yeah.
See a very calm environment. But perhaps tomorrow morning you could sit over breakfast. And
I'm willing to chair the joint degree committee.
I'm happy to take summer school.
Great. So we have moot court left on the practical side. Who came up with that brilliant idea? Moot court.
Okay. You will do it?
Yes.
There's
Moot court? Okay.
Yes, Margarita, Los Andes.
That leaves the big one.
what?
But it would be possible.
I'm sorry?
You're the natural.
The natural candidate would be.
For what?
The academic,
No.
the big academic committee.
He wants to have a definition. I'm the anti-academic. I'm the practical one.
That's why you should be the
No, do we have someone for the joint degree?
Yes, me.
Okay. And you will be part
Yeah,
of
sure.
this? Okay. No,
No,
you
I
should be
agree.
the academic.
No, I agree with Louis. You should be the
Who is this from?
Honestly,
thinking
it's
about
a good
myself.
idea, even if you have a lot of help, just because I
I
can
know-
speak institutionally, that you will help me, that will help me bring faculty along at NYU.
Amir?
The reason I hesitate is I don't have a formal position in my law school. So I'm a former dean. So I sit here for the actual dean. So at this point, I'd rather not take any.
But I must say my reaction, of course, you maybe want to talk to your dean, but I would be hesitant as a dean to take up such a burden. So maybe it's better that somebody has not daily executive.
And those in the end of the room, it's like a classroom. Those who sit. It's amazing how this haven't changed with age. No, I will be in the bylaws, so no, it doesn't make sense to be in two committees.
Okay, I feel we won't solve the knot here, but maybe we can talk about it later. And,
maybe you can make the task a bit smaller so that people are more ready to take it on.
Yeah, but it's hard at this point to split it up
So
because
the academic committee, we could call it the agenda committee?
yeah.
Yes.
Okay, just the agenda committee.
Yes.
I could participate, but perhaps someone who has the responsibility to write the...
To be the task for just one person?
No, it's not
the
one
chairman,
person,
only.
So maybe we can have more.
It's always good to have
Okay, so
one.
there's...
Sorry.
Yeah. Yes. For the agenda. Okay. Just if Enrique is with me on the committee. Or Luis. Huh? Okay. All right.
Totally.
Amir?
As a member? Yeah, as a member for sure. As a member for sure. Okay.
Great. For the members, I would suggest that we next week send out an email to you all and say suggest members, and then we can work out practical lists that is not too big.
This is a sensitive issue about that combines a number of issues: the website, the membership, and the branding. So this is very powerful. This is brilliant, in fact, and it it's a source of strength for the league and for each and every member school. I don't have a personal view at this point, but I think we should have some agreement, even of a rough, open-ended agreement about membership. Is everybody invited? Do we want to have a certain number of schools from each and every country, or what? Who decides on membership? Because the way I see it, this is an extremely powerful, because the issues are real, because the problems are real and the solutions are necessary, and branding is a powerful concept. This will become something that a lot of law schools may be interested in. So it might not be that far that we'll have a flood of, self-appointments, applications. Who will have to have an admissions committee soon enough. So at least generally speaking, I think we should form a shared understanding about membership.
Well, sorry.
The constitution document.
Well, when I said my last sentence before you replied, basically, said and about the members we're going to decide later. I meant the members of the committee, but the members of the league is of course a very important issue. As I said, basically we're now 13 plus 5, the one we invited, and we indicated some gaps in the map. And my suggestion would be from now on, if we take on more than new members, that we should be in agreement about that as a group. And of course, we need to have at some point criteria, but maybe we can try to include criteria in the draft of the constitution to start with. But how did we come by this group? Yeah. We indicated pretty much just 20 faculties we knew or hoped to get to know better, of which we felt at first they shared a commitment to globalization and innovation. I would say it's, I think, no coincidence that many of the law schools here are rather young, not to say extremely young. Not all, that's not a criterion, but it's an indication. Secondly, of course, we looked at the map of the world to make it more or less global. And thirdly, of course, in any region of the world, we took the best. But I wouldn't then be inclined to make it too big in terms of numbers. If we are 18 and we add China, for instance, and the Middle East and maybe England or 1 or 2, then we are above 20. I would be inclined to say, let's stop here for the first few years. And once it's running up, then we can discuss about that again. But what we would like to do here now is, if we speak about indeed China, Middle East, and for instance England or other places in the world, do you have suggestions around the table that we could agree on to approach and invite? And for the future, I would say we need to be in agreement if we allow somebody in.
I had an experience 3 weeks ago. There was the American Law School Association meeting, which is an enormous thing in DC. And I was in one of the panels about global legal education, and I mentioned this conference. So in the end of the conference, there was a line of people that wanted to talk with me about, well, how could we do to join you? So yes, so I think this is one problem. There is a second issue, which is the existence of the International Law School Association, which is open membership. I spoke with the president that was supposed to be here, but he had an accident before coming, and say, well, it's a completely different thing. We don't want to compete with you. We don't want to be an open membership organization, but we have a specific goal, etc. So I think the tension with the International Law School Association is dissipated. But yes, I think we should be a small club, so our brand would be more and more valuable.
So what I foresee, especially after I heard the presentation from the second working group number 2, is, and again, it will come up in the discussions over summer schools and joint degrees and materials and so on. Even at the most basic level, I would like to post this logo on my school's website, and thus create a brand and thus create a source of power for us to kind of go back to our regulators, to our colleagues, to faculty members, even in recruitment or in admissions processes, we could actually use this brandish, this brand name. And is this something that we all agree on doing? Just use the logo on our school's website.
And this will bring the very adjustment issue of intellectual property, right? We have to
Yeah, I think we should move this way, and I think this is the kind of decision that will be on the bylaws, and that we will agree in Tilburg. But I think this is the kind of thing. What is to be a member? What are your privileges of being a member? Or you can use this, and then your duties. What the standards that you should. And this is I think the toughest part that you were saying about benchmarking.
Yes.
So, it's not just because we like each other, it was fun here in São Paulo that we are members. We should produce some standards that schools should cope with to be a member.
All the things.
We have to certificate. It's a kind of certification, right?
Yeah.
Self-certification.
Self-regulation.
If we look at China, first of all, these 5 members I mentioned who want to come, is there anybody who says no? I mean, Sydney, Hong Kong, IE, McGill, and Sciences Po. Are we fine to keep them on board?
I propose Tsinghua.
And then China, Tsinghua.
Because of our very strong relationship with them, I believe it could be done.
Yeah. We actually approached Tsinghua, but we didn't get them on board. So
We didn't get answers. Or they did not say, no, I don't want to participate?
at some point from our side, one of my former dean was there in June, and then there was some context, but then the relation or the conversation petered out.
Okay.
But it might help if there's a big group.
But if you have a very good relation, and if there's a consent that we would go for Tsinghua in...
There's this transnational... What's it?
So there's Jeff Lehman.
Yeah, Jeff. I spoke with Jeff. He was excited about it.
Right.
He said he would come, and then
They weren't
he
here.
didn't, fade.
I mean, I know. I just saw them last week. Actually, I mean, they're hiring their faculty sort of in collaboration with us. Not that we're helping. We're just sort of helping them vet candidates. I don't know. So we could go back. I mean, we could go back to either one of those guys, and we could help with.
Yeah, the G one is Chinese, real Chinese, different than the transnational,
Yeah.
which is
So.
U.S. education in China.
Right. Exactly. So if what you're looking for is really, I mean, there's challenges with Tsinghua as well, but
Yeah.
Jeff's curriculum is almost entirely an American law curriculum.
Yeah.
They are building out a Chinese law curriculum.
And also Stephen helping us. Yeah?
What's your perception?
Yeah, what's your view,
You
Stephen?
should say, you might have a real.
We have collaboration with so we have quite extensive relationships
With Tsinghua.
Who do you work with, Stephen, in Shanghai, though? There's another school, right?
Yeah, the East China University.
But I understand from Simon that that's not, a partnership.
Yes.
I feel a broader consent on Tsinghua.
But who would restart conversations with them?
I think you should. I mean, Tsinghua is sometimes a bit slow.
Would you be able to do it?
Yeah, we'll do it.
Yeah, I
together.
can open up. I can open up with them, no problem.
Amir and,
Yeah, Steve, we'll do it together.
Yeah,
We'll
right,
do
yeah.
that would be great. Yeah. Well, they're big.
Okay, thank you.
Then we were thinking about the Arab Middle East.
Then you know, that's great.
There's a colleague from FGV who can be helpful.
Yeah,
But if there's other suggestions,
Everyone wants that.
but if there are other suggestions, then they're more than
Sorry,
welcome.
then who?
The Arab Middle East.
Oh, what was the suggestion?
There's no suggestions yet, but
Yes, hello. My name is Salim Nasser. I teach international law here. So yes, we have been talking with Maria Lucia and with Oscar about some possibilities in the Arab world. I am originally from Lebanon, so I know more schools there, but I think there are some at North Africa, in Egypt, in Tunisia, to whom we can speak. I have already started some consultations to see what would be the best choice for this kind of effort. So I don't have a name, but I'm working on something that would be appropriate for this gathering, no?
So the only thing to add is maybe we should talk afterwards, just because through NYU Abu Dhabi and this one center that we now have, that Center for, we have some links. So maybe we can just talk a little bit. I don't know. I don't have a name that jumps out either, but I have some thoughts that we should.
Yes, because of course this is no news to anybody, but in the Middle East, when you speak about the Arab Middle East, there is the question of overlapping with Islamic Middle East or excluding Islamic Middle East, right? So when you think of any university in the Arab world, you have to think, other than the Arab nature of the thing, also on the religious representative character of the institution. So how plural it is, how open it is, how diverse it is. So we cannot exclude the Islamic oriented or the mixed universities to go, for example, for a purely Christian university like we have some in Lebanon. So they may be of a religious origin, but they are open, and we will find in the faculty and in the students the diversity that we are looking for. So this is one criteria with which I am playing in my mind, because the choice can be a delicate choice, right?
So perhaps, if any of you are in your faculty, when you go back, have information and could send to Salim, we will share.
Yes.
Yeah, to Maria Lúcia, and perhaps we will.
I can offer that we don't have a law campus, but we have a campus in Qatar, and have had contact with the law school.
Where, sorry?
Qatar. We also have a faculty member, Kristen Still, who has done extensive work with the universities in Egypt. Right.
So maybe the idea would be that everybody who has information sends it to us, and then we share it with colleague Nasser, and then we come with a proposition at some point to you.
And of course, I'm ready to make the interlocutory works with anyone or any number of universities that we decide to see whether they can be part of the effort. No? So yes, I would thank any contribution that you can.
Yes.
Perhaps I could help, because we have a relationship with the Lebanon University of Kazlik, you know? Kazlik, yeah. And we have a good relationship with them, with the law faculty, so when I come home I could try to get an answer from them if they have interest to reach the Global League. Or I give the contact to you, Maria Lucia. It's you can contact, or we can contact. It's okay.
Turkey also could be.
Yes, Turkey. We know. I know people in Turkey as well. But Lebanon maybe would be one automatic choice, because it is this country where you have this mixture that maybe will be interesting for us. But there are several schools. The most traditional one is a Jesuit school. It is the best law school in Lebanon, probably, Saint Joseph. And you have another one which has a good relationship with Gonzaga Law School, with which we have also some partnership. It's La Sagesse. So, but you have, of course, the American University in Cairo. So there are some choices we can work on.
And in Beirut, right? There's American. Does that have a law?
There is, but they don't have a law school. They have a very strong political science and international relations, but and they are very, very good university. But there is the Lebanese American school. So there are several. So we can.
Okay. I'm the opinion that the new members have a real commitment to the Global League, because normally my experience is when there's such like a conference, a lot of law schools or whatever say yes, 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 and when it starts to work, it's hard to get them. So a real commitment is really important to have an advantage here for the Global League. That's just my.
It's also why we actually choose first to set an agenda with this conference and the next conference, and then make bylaws, because there's too many leagues that have bylaws and no.
What about, what happened with UCL?
Sorry?
What happened with UCL?
Well, England is the next issue, so UCL, Machteld maybe, you know what the last status is, but in the end we didn't, in the beginning they were more or less enthusiastic, and then we didn't hear from them.
Yeah, we were in direct contact before, and then we didn't hear for a couple of weeks, just when we needed to have the information. So I think that actually there is a chance UCL might join, but they were probably waiting to see if this meeting was a success and whether they should invest in coming to Sao Paulo. That's my guess.
Yeah. Okay.
So the question is, do we go on with UCL, or is somebody more supportive of?
Did you ask?
Sorry?
Stephen?
Yeah, the only point I was going to make was a related point. If you have an English law school, you have to have a Scottish law school.
Then I would say Edinburgh.
Well, that could be one of them.
We have a professor of ours that is in Edinburgh now. And we have another Brazilian professor who's, I think, a professor now there that is a good collaborator of this school. So Edinburgh could be easy for us to start with. And obviously,
I know. He could still.
Actually, Neil Walker, because you mentioned that, Neil Walker is, we have an annual faculty lecturer or Montesquieu lecturer, because the building of our Dutch law school logically is called after Montesquieu. And we have a Montesquieu lecturer. I gave some books out and have a few more from Twining's Montesquieu lecture on globalization. And the Montesquieu lecture is organized at the first day of the conference in Tilburg, and it will be Neil Walker. So including Edinburgh would be nice. But England, UCL, or are there other suggestions? LSE? Yeah, we thought about that too. But is there anybody in a position to bring them over? Or?
She's right. I mean, she has a concern about LSE. I just asked her.
No. Well, we're with LSE in this RISE network, but what was our experience is that they're not organized in the sense that they can involve their staff members through the network. So if they're willing to join and they can give the commitment, we're fine. It's just our experience that they're not organized in the way that most law faculties are organized. It's very decentralized.
Yeah. I mean, I would think that UCL would be possible still. I mean, I would imagine that given if people like the idea of UCL, I could certainly go back to some.
But I think LSE can be easily approached through the new dean of NUS.
Oh, that's right.
No. Among others. But yeah, maybe we may have to make a choice between UCL and LSE, because we don't want to be too European or lopsided on the European side. Or is England not Europe? But
well, we've just been saying that we can contact UCL quite easily and find out, and it's you will know.
Perhaps in a short period.
First, okay, that's the plan. First UCL, if they say no, then LSE.
They call themselves a global law school.
Yeah.
Who doesn't?
Okay, are there other gaps on the map we need to fill out? Because now we'll have.
Did you guys consider anyone from Argentina?
Yeah. In Latin America, there are several possibilities.
Chile.
In Chile, we have.
Book Chile?
No. There's Diego Portales, which is, I think,
very nice.
More alike.
Yes.
He's also a partner of us, long-standing.
We just signed up partners.
In Argentina, there are also options.
Torquato. It's also a law school from Rona's business school.
And Mexico.
San Andreas.
There's San Andreas and Torquato.
Exactly. I mean, Carlos Rosencrantz is a former global, and I'm in touch with him a lot. I don't know if you want Argentina.
No, they are all good friends. If we choose one, the other will kill us.
Oh, I see.
Yes,
that's the problem.
Torquato and San Andres.
So we have North America, Latin America, and what is with Mexico, or in the middle?
Well, they decide to become North America. Yeah, obvious. But then it will be overrepresented.
Yeah.
If we have Canada, U.S., Mexico, Colombia, I don't mind. I like my continent. But, yes. We have Colombia and Brazil. The choice is for
Colombia,
you.
Brazil, USA, Canada.
US and
okay.
Canada.
Canada? We have Canada? Yeah, make it. Yeah.
So then, how many we have from Europe?
Sciences Po.
Tilburg, Sciences Po, IE, Catholica, Edinburgh, and England, and Wiesbaden, 7.
2 from US. I don't know. It's up to.
And Russia?
It's just a proposition, yeah.
But that's a continent in itself.
Let's start with this.
I think
Let's start with this.
It has to be a working group.
Maybe one more from Latin America?
Yeah, there's another question for the South Africans. Would it be possible to find in Kenya or Nigeria or?
The Center of Human Rights as a partner relationship with a number of African countries.
Yeah.
I do not have the names here. I can inquire about good African.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So, but what was the decision? Should we invite someone else from Latin America? Is that what you? For me, it would be great. Just.
I would just speak in favor of wherever we can increase participation from not Europe and North America. That potentially, I think, enhances. I don't know. I think it's just good. So that's all.
I also think that a second Spanish-speaking Latin American country would be good.
Yeah, would be. And then there's several decisions. Mexico, it's the second largest economy.
Yes.
So Mexico would be one choice.
Yes.
And there are good law schools in Mexico.
Yes.
In the sense that we are standardizing here. Schools that are more, which would be the Monterrey and Ita. You have Ita, you have Monterrey, and there's why don't we?
I think it would be good to talk. Maybe talk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would say that the people from the Americas make a proposition.
Talking with your friends and perhaps setting what would be the choice.
Yeah.
Because we have partnerships with all the three. So.
Okay, so the.
Closest one.
Okay, so I summarize. We approached Tsinghua, we approached UCL. Professor Nasser is going to make a proposition with our help also for the Muslim Middle East, so I broaden it a bit, potentially also Turkey. Pretoria and Cape Town will think about Africa. And the Americans will think in the broadest sense of the world about Mexico. And we should do that quite shortly so that they can join in Tilburg, and then, because then it's too much of a lapse between the head group and the rest.
You should probably agree the consensus rule for any of you.
Yes.
Agree the consensus rule.
Yeah, I think we already tabled that. Yeah, for me that's agreed. So we make a proposition before we. There's consent about Tsinghua. There's consent about UCL. There's consent about Edinburgh. And for the Middle East, Africa, and Mexico, there will be proposition, and of course, time to react.
Yes.
Are there other issues we want to discuss now?
Can I ask a silly one? How did you guys come up with a name?
You did.
No. We come up.
Yeah.
I think we discussed it. We thought it was a good name.
No. It's just the logo looks really good. I just wondered if we wanted to call it. I hope this isn't a really unpopular thing to raise, but some kind of put the global sort of in the front and have Global Legal Education Week or something like that, as opposed to law schools. I just in English it just didn't quite. I don't know. Maybe
it's
I'm
not purely an English league, right?
We
We can use English to
But
make
but
it.
good point. But maybe it translates better in other languages. I don't know. I think in English it's a little awkward.
Well, it doesn't. It's not. I agree. It's not very fluent, so we could still change the name now. But
It's only a way to communicate yourself.
Okay, Okay, so it's not the external name necessarily.
No, but we need a name, so.
Yeah.
No, it's a good name.
And I guess
You find it a good name?
Good name and great logo.
I hope that wasn't horrible that I asked that.
No. But if the native speakers feel that there's something amiss, we might
But
want
you
to
can
take that
put
on
global
board.
in front.
The
That's
reason is, I'll
sometimes
tell you
done.
what my
That's done
objection
here
grammatically
on the booklet.
is law schools, global league. It's just, I don't know.
Well, on the booklet it says Global Law School League, so
Ah.
there's no definite name.
Is that
Right.
better, Global Law School League?
The English speakers from India, South Africa, how it sounds for you.
Yeah, sure. It means something different.
Oh, I understand what you're saying. It's a good distinction. Yeah.
Huh?
I like it.
The
Maria
Global
is-
League of Law Schools. He's got it right there. That would probably be better.
In Indian, English would function better.
You have better English than the Americans. That's good. I think it's Queen's English. He's got it. I think it's better.
But I think there's a substantive difference between saying law schools, global league, or global league of law schools, and saying global law schools.
Yeah. That's correct.
No, that's right. So Global League of Law Schools, I think, would be a little more elegant.
Global League of Law Schools, that gives us GLLS.
Oh.
Yeah, this is
This is fun. This is fun.
Yeah, it's fine.
Global league of law schools. See, the thing is that it takes forever for you to know what you're talking about. Global league and global league.
Baseball.
Global league. I like the law school.
Yeah.
Global league because regardless of what you're talking about law schools.
There are hundreds of global leagues.
I don't know. I prefer that in a sense. And, so
You're happy with it.
The only reason, so would you think that legal it's just law schools. That's
Shall we-
what's making it
should we make it
awkward.
Spanish?
And if we should drop the S, is that better?
Kind of, but what about legal education globally?
No, because we want to do
I'm
research.
really I'm causing problems.
No, because we want to do research too, so it's not only education. But if you drop the S, is that better English?
yes.
Law school globally.
No, it's several law schools. It's a pluralist, non-nationalistic, fantastic name. We can all stand behind it, I think.
It's
For a
global.
working
It's
title.
global English.
No, I agree with your point. If you say global league, you can hundred thousands of global leagues. Yeah.
When you start searching in Google, you will insert global league. It won't come the law school. It will come what? The soccer global league? Or
if you're lucky,
we're quite lucky, yeah.
So I find a broad majority to improve upon the English language and make law schools global league and keep it. Sorry, PJ.
Exactly.
Oh, there you go. Yes.
That is brilliant.
Thank you.
we make
There
it.
you go.
We make it a genitive. We put an apostrophe after the S, so then that makes it a genitive, and then grammatically it's correct.
On Google, won't make any difference.
No.
It's a great solution too. I don't know whether it's impossible to make a reading that is grammatically incorrect. And then you're going to add something to the logo. Anyways, so it's okay. It's okay by me. I just think that when you're talking about vanishing borders and rules and norms and legislation and grammar is still so strong. So I don't know.
Actually,
I have nothing against that. No, really. You can drop the global.
I like that actually, that we can argue that we consciously made a grammatical mistake because we wanted to break to break through the rules. It speaks to my anarchical side, so yes, I like that. Okay, so we stick to the name.
Emphasize that the only issue on which we disagree or apparently do not agree is the name. So I think we are
The apostrophe.
We reduced the problem of globalization to an apostrophe. I think that's a successful conclusion.
So you choose if you put the apostrophe or not in your own site.
Okay, are there other issues? Somebody, yes, sure.
Sorry, the website thing, who exactly is going to take care of that? And what's going to be in there? And
I think in first order we will convert about how we will propose that to you. And then, of course, we can again, but that's maybe too practical issue now immediately to...
Okay. So Oscar is in charge of the website. Okay, so that's the site.
Oscar is in charge of the...
I cannot solve it. Well, my plan for the website is that the global here moves. That's my only plan for the website. Make more global.
But
You're getting dangerous
how
close.
we're going to set it up and...
You're getting very close to the road is yours. Remember Scarface.
Okay, other issues?
Just a question about participation in June in terms of other people from our institutions. What would you guys desire? Like a sixth person, or because I'm thinking there are other people that would be as or better than me. Tell us.
We're moving towards the question of maybe structure, but the idea is for the executive meetings, of course, that all law schools would be represented, I would say, by at least one person.
But more is okay.
But more is okay. There's, of course, also the academic conference, and it might be that some of your faculty might want to attend. But I would say that there would be a commitment for the annual conference that for this meeting, that is always at least somebody with enough authority to, or enough knowledge to contribute.
One thing about the annual meeting and summer courses, we joke a little bit about summers. For our students' participation, our vacation period, I'm saying here, I don't know in Colombia, I don't know in India, but for the countries in the South Africa, here we have summer is December to February. Okay, this is the freest time of our students. And July is also, they are totally free. But if you do something in the middle of October, for us it's the middle of the semester.
Same for us.
So,
same for us.
Yes, same for us.
huh?
June and July.
July.
Yeah. For us,
Usually they're going to have exams like mid to late June, so July, say.
Yeah.
July is the best.
Oscar, we do it either June or July, depending on the host university.
Okay.
June or July.
Okay. Yes.
June would work.
Would not work.
June or July.
July would not work for you.
July is okay.
July would work.
June would not work.
Yeah, for us, June is difficult. It's very difficult. It's exams. July would be perfect.
Can we do it first of July?
Yeah, no, but to send your students and professors.
Oh, okay. July is fine.
July is okay. Yeah, July is
And of course it will sometimes be winter.
Yeah, sometimes it will be winter. Well, but the winter normally in the south is not as problematic as you see. The summer is much more problematic. Yeah, the weather in South Africa in July is yeah.
Something in Victoria, and when we was in the World Cup in 2010, there were some cold mornings when they were you all right.
Freezing.
Yeah, that was
It's beautiful.
As warm as it gets, I suppose.
Sorry. But we might want to consider, not now, but maybe it's next meeting to talk about this fundraising.
Oh, that's a good point. We need to fundraise for this. So we need to go back home and perhaps the bylaws would also have the cost of this. Because one thing is that we are sharing here, we are paying, we'll pay in Tilburg, but after that we have to come with a plan of membership, how much this will cost, and also strategy for fundraising.
I think it's very fundraisable.
Yeah.
Actually, I don't think it's going to be a problem, but you just want to focus.
I think would be, so then in Tilburg perhaps we would create a committee for fundraising.
Yeah.
Yes.
Which is
It's a good idea.
precondition for all.
Yeah.
Very good. Okay.
Times, everything's okay. I don't know. It's raining now. Sound.
Well, so
Oscar, I just want to say thank you. I don't know if we're closing now, but I'm really glad. Yeah, I don't know if you guys know the story. We at NYU we had just been not paying attention to emails, and I'm very grateful because he came to visit us about 10 days ago. It was very tight with my visa, but I'm really appreciative both of the fact that you rallied NYU, but also just of your sort of leadership here at Tilburg. I just think that you guys hosting this has been very exciting, and I'm glad that you brought us along. It's a great initiative.
thank you. Thank you for coming.
Well, so I think we are coming to, yes, you should say some last concluding remarks.
First, this is just to thank all of you. I know the effort of all of you to come here, to leave your families and other issues and stay for a long time in the airplane. I know how we suffer about that. So I'm really pleased, but I'm more pleased that we move so fast to something. It's really amazing that the level of agreement is so high and the conference went such in a smooth pace. So I think we are all we have to congratulate ourselves. I would like to especially thank you, Maria Lúcia, who was here at the person really behind that did all the work. She put us to work a little bit, but she was the one who really worked, and her staff that work a lot. I think they did a wonderful job. Would like to thank Randall for the generosity in the way we carry out this mission, and his staff that also was involved, Mac especially. Yeah, she is the person to be thanked. Okay, and thank you. Let's have a good samba at night.
I would like to thank also Professor Paulo Goldschmidt that
Provide the
resources to do everything.